In this episode, we're going to look at some more forgotten hideouts, domiciles, and lairs for your 80s action figures. So, stick around! Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode we will be presenting the 5th installment of Forgotten Playsets from the 1980s. Taking a quick look at the list that I compiled for this episode, we will be taking a trip into space because these are a lot of great 80s sci-fi toys. Now I know I have the show Plastic Ghosts, which focuses on forgotten 80s and eventually 90s toys. And this topic would fit the parameters of that show perfectly. But I kind of want to keep this its own thing because this topic was the genesis for Plastic Ghosts. And I want to keep it its own entity just because we've already gotten 5 episodes deep, this is the 6th one, into the topic on Nostalgia Syndrome. So we're just going to keep chugging along on this show with this topic while still focusing on forgotten toys with the Plastic Ghost show monthly. So, sorry. I know, needless information, but I just felt the need to share, so thanks for listening. Anyway, like I said, by happenstance, this list that I created for tonight focuses primarily on toy lines that prospered in space. Now, some of them had cartoon shows attached to them, some of them were just fly-by-night brands that didn't really get the traction that they deserved. So, without further ado, let's go to number 1 on the list. Number 1 on the list is the SDF-1, produced by Matchbox in 1985. Now, this 2.5 foot tall playset is awesome. I had no idea this thing existed until recently, because believe me, as a kid I would have loved to have this. Now, I didn't have many Robotech toys, but I was such a fan of the show. My first exposure to anime, and I was hooked ever since. The show had a very deep storyline, and yes, I know it was cobbled together from other series to get 3 seasons of it, but with what they did, I was enthralled by it and I enjoyed every second. As for the toy, like I said, it was 2.5 feet tall, and no offense to Matchbox, but they kind of said scale be damned with this, because it is in a 3 3/4 scale for the playset, which is a nice recreation of a bridge of an aircraft carrier. But yeah, their Robotech toys were all over the place. Even in some of the production pictures they have the 3 3/4 figures sitting in the captain's chair or the computer chairs, or sitting in the Veritech on the playmat landing strip. But they also include the big mechs that were in a very scaled down size from where they would be in scaled form, if that makes any sense. Sorry, I'm sure the pictures will tell the tale. Anyway, like I said, it's a pretty good recreation of a bridge area of an aircraft carrier, and with a $60 price tag when it came out, it's a cheaper alternative to the USS Flag. So if you were one of those kids that couldn't afford the huge flag, this was kind of a neat alternative to have. You know, if you weren't into Robotech, this could still work with your Joe figures. Now, like I said, I've only recently have seen this, but if I was a kid, I would have loved to have it. Now, for $60, I know my parents would have not gotten it for me, but it would have been so cool. Like I said, I could have pretended it was the Flag 1 minute and the SDF-1 another. And like I said, I didn't have any Robotech figures, but I would have loved to have some with this. And I have to be honest, the reason I did not have any Robotech figures was because the large size Veritech that they have didn't transform into its robot form. So I always was kind of down on that and just turned my nose up at it. Kind of regret it now, but what are you going to do? On top of being a pretty cool bridge for a aircraft carrier, like I said, it has a captain's chair at the top, two like navigator / computer chairs. Below that, it has an elevator, like a lot of playsets in the 80s. Gotta have that elevator. And it had a really cool like winch system that had a claw for picking up things, and also, I would assume, fuel lines, so you could gas up your Veritech before you send it out after the Zentradi. Now, the front of this is very simple, but really cool with its actual, open areas for the captain to look out at and the computer people sitting in their chairs to look out into space. I think that's pretty cool. On top of that, it has a pretty cool, like, satellite relay at the top and a little round spot where your mechs can stand. At the time, was it really worth the $60? I don't know, but now it goes for a pretty penny, and if I had that dough, I would definitely get this. Now let me add real quick, I've not done any research on this. It kind of popped up while I was quickly looking over some research while filming this, that they had a cardboard SDF-1 that, I don't want to say full size, but pretty darn big. And like I said, it's cardboard. It looks like it all fits together. And I briefly saw people said it was like a cardboard monster, but might be something for a future list while I do a little bit more research on it. Because, yeah, anything from Robotech in the 80s is an ace in my book. Number 2 on the list comes from 1987 and made by Kenner, and that is the Sky Commanders Vector Command. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Sky Commanders, they are small action figures about the size of Kenner's mask line, and they would have these awesome, like, backpack vehicle harness things that were supposed to zip line around on colorful string, like neon green. The one I had neon green, and it was pretty darn awesome. Unfortunately, it never lived up to the commercials. The commercials had zip lines all over the house, and they came and went and had battles and were awesome. And it never went that way, unfortunately. If they did, this line could have prospered. Now, it had a cartoon series that unfortunately only lasted 13 episodes. But within those 13 episodes, they told the story of the mighty Sky Commanders versus the villainous Raiders, and their exploits around a new continent that arose from the Pacific Ocean. Pretty cool story from what I remember of the cartoon, but it was those toys and those commercials that really sold me on them. Now, Vector Command came with General Mike Summit, who I believe is the leader of all the Sky Commanders. So it kinda is fitting that he would come with their base of operations. Now, the one thing I remember about the toy was at either end of the line, or at least one end of the line, it had kind of a grippy thing that you could attach it to a chair or a table. Now, this playset, I think, has the same thing on its base, that you can actually snap it to a table or a chair or your coffee table or what have you. It's kind of broken down into different layers. At the bottom you have like a landing pad and different little wings coming off to the side where your warriors can stand and launch off to thwart the raiders. And it also comes with this track thing. That's one of the things I forgot to mention. The bigger vehicles in the line had a little track that would go out. It's a little flat piece of plastic, and they would snap on it, kind of like an upside down monorail, if you will, and go back and forth. So this on its base had like a hookup to those, so they could, come and go and hang out in the base and do whatever. And like a lot of playsets now and back then, it has missile firing action, it has a turret for a dude to sit in, and it came with a spaceship kind of thing that says it's customizable for play. You can add different guns and things to it that came with the playset. Now, one of the things I find truly fascinating about this when I was doing the research was it sold for $13.99. This is a pretty sizable item for $13.99, and it's pretty versatile for playtime fun. That is a great deal. And if I owned one, then they were sold for a reasonable price. So I assume the whole line was pretty nicely priced. And it's a darn shame that it didn't grow into something bigger. Now, I'm a fan of 3 3/4 figures, and I will be till the day I die. Now, 6-inch figures have really caught my eye recently, but I will always have a soft spot in my heart for those little 2.5, 3-inch figures, whatever they are. They have so much personality in such a small package, and this line had a lot of personality, and like I said, it's just a bummer that it didn't go anywhere. Now, number 3 on the list also hails from 1987, and it was made by Mattel, and that is the Starcom toy line. And the playset was the Starbase Command Headquarters. In 1987, it was a dual punch of cartoon and toy line. Unfortunately, both kind of fizzled out. The cartoon only ran 13 episodes, and that's an amazing fact considering the backing that it got. You had the blessing of NASA and the production of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola made this cartoon. How crazy is that? With the help of Deke, and we know how Deke is. Anyway, I mean, NASA and Coke? How more American can you get? That's more American than G.I. Joe. Oh, strike that. I don't want the hate mail. Take that out. Anyway, the Starbase Command Headquarters featured the magnet technology that the smaller toys had, but on a little bit of a larger scale. This toy featured large metal areas for the magneted feet of the figures to stand on, and it pretty much was like a replica of a bridge of a space station or a large cruiser, if you will. It has a really neat aesthetic that kind of reminds me of like Space 1999. It just has that look to it for some reason. That's just my impression of it. You may have a different one. And if I may, the ships were great designs. Now, I personally never got into it because I think I was kind of aged out at that time period. Also, it didn't have any wacky aliens or anything that would have piqued my interest. They were just kind of the good guys and the bad guys, and they were just different colors. But they really had some neat-looking ships. Why I mention the neat-looking ships is because this playset kinda is lacking in that, like, imagination that they used while developing the ships. It's kinda very bare bones. And again, these are very small action figures, even smaller than the Kenner ones that I was talking about, like in the Sky Commanders. They're even smaller than that, but they had little magnet feet, and like I said, this had actual metal plates for them to stand on, like a little metal, looks like a chin-up bar that they can hang from. And of course, it came with a cannon, which they dubbed a railgun, which pretty cool. I mean, railgun technology in the 80s, who would have thought? That was a term I didn't hear until the 90s personally, so that's pretty cool. But it came with a figure, it came with a satellite dish, and it came with other ports around it that you could remove the cannon and place them in different areas. So it kind of had a modular feel in that aspect. And off to the side, it had a little Magna-Lock airlock thing. Not really 100% sure what it did, but it's a little room off to the side, so your people could chill in there and decompress the pressures of space and, you know, watch some TV or whatever they did in the Starcom universe. Now, a weird factoid that I just can't grasp entirely was Mattel made it for America, but Coleco picked up the distribution of it in Europe and Asia, and it flourished there. It was very popular. I mean, it still didn't have a longer run of the cartoon to propel it, but toys alone, it did great. Now, they had to remove all the NASA terminology and the American flags from it, but it did really well. And yeah, I see a lot of the toys popping up on the secondary market in Europe, and that's kind of neat. It's really cool to hear that toys fail here, but garner a whole nother life somewhere else, and are popular, and kids loved playing with it. So That's awesome, and that's great on Starcom. Like I said, wasn't really my thing because it didn't have any wacky aliens, but I always did enjoy the ships. So that was the Starbase Command Headquarters. Number 4 also comes from Mattel from the year 1985, and that is the Wheeled Warriors Battle Base playset, or as the box says, the Lightning League's Mobile Fighting Fortress, which I think is a far better name. They should have went with that. Again, like everything else on this list, it had a cartoon attached to it, but it did not get any traction. It could be from the fact that the toy line didn't really match up with the cartoon, which was named Jace in the Wheeled Warriors. Now, the figures that came with the vehicles were very small, had very, very, very limited articulation, and did not really match any of the characters in the show. The show had a very wide, open mythos to it, but the toy line was kind of boxed in. Now, this was a very awesome toy line that had a lot of modular playability, and the playset also featured that. It came with a ton of different guns that could be snapped on here and there on the vehicles themselves. I mean, you could use them anywhere, and that was one of the great things about this toy line. It also featured a ramp that launched the cars into combat, a pull-up gun turret to surprise attack, space for 4 vehicles, and the big kicker, you could close it up and have a carrying case. Hallelujah! One of the most awesome aspects of playsets are when you can use them as carrying cases. Yeah, I wish more of them had that back in the day. Now, the inside featured, mechanics bays, a little computer area, doorways, a claw, and something that resembles a weapons rack, which could possibly be so you can put all your cool little weapons on it. Like I said, I loved the toy that I had, because I only had the Jace vehicle, and I loved the cartoon, but I didn't catch it that much because it was one of those super secret syndicated cartoons that ran like Sunday morning at 6 o'clock, and I never was able to catch it. But when I did, I loved it. And I love the cartoon's intro by itself. Awesome rockin' soundtrack, which I can't include because of copyright, but just believe me, it was awesome, and just look it up and see for yourself. But I can include this commercial, so take a look at it.
You can make the good guys better. Battle Base. Lightning League Battle Base. You put it together. Wheeled Warriors. Quick changing fighting machines.
Enemy approaching. Prepare Battle Base. Launcher 1 loaded. 2 loaded. 3 loaded.
You can stack and attack with Wheeled Warriors. Quick changing fighting machines. Lightning League Battle Base. Vehicles each sold separately. Some parts not for use with some toys. New from Mattel.
I hope you enjoyed that commercial, but now to number 5 on the list. Now, number 5 on the list also had a TV show attached to it. I can't say cartoon because this was live action, and it was Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. This only ran for 22 episodes, and like I said, it was live action, set in a post-apocalyptic world, and yeah, I could see that being pretty scary for younger viewers. But it featured cutting-edge technology in their toy line that was supposed to interact with the TV show. Now, that was stuff out of my budget, and I was kind of aged out of it, but I still enjoyed the action figures. There were some really neat ones, especially the robot bad guys. Now, they had a couple playsets, but in this episode we're going to talk about the Power Base Fortress, released by Mattel in 1987. Now, I don't mean to talk any smack about Mattel, because they're awesome, they've always made awesome toys, and they're still kicking it with awesome Masters of the Universe toys. But I just feel like since the popularity of Masters of the Universe dwindled, they tried so many different things and different technologies just to have another hit. And unfortunately, this toy line and show just never reached that peak of popularity. Now, this playset utilized that TV toy technology that I mentioned, because on top of this pretty cool mountain-esque front to it that kind of looks like a skull. It kind of has two holes where eyes should be. Anyway, it had a large cannon at the top that allowed you to fire at the TV, but the TV could fire back at you, and as the box says, featured many explosions. So I just figured that there's probably pieces of this playset that would crumble and fall away when you were attacked by your TV. Now, I'm looking at the box right now, and to clarify, it says it features lots of explosions. TV fires back, blows up cliff wall, lookout posts, and blasts figures off command console. Fire and score hits on other Captain Power accessories. So that's pretty cool, and the box actually shows, fake penciled in lasers firing at your TV. And mind you, this is the 80s, so it's a pretty small TV. It'd be pretty cool to have this technology now with our huge flat screens. That would be pretty neat. But I don't think the technology... It's weird. Our technology has advanced beyond cool things like that. It was almost the archaic analog TV offered really neat things like this. Now, I don't see an awful lot of this online. Of course, there's some still in the box people are selling for like $600 and stuff, but I don't see a lot of like pictures of it in play. Let's see here. Now, if this is it, oh yeah, the inside has a very cool, has 3 different chairs with a roundish futuristic computer relay station. Comes with a cannon at the top for the characters to sit on, and kind of a neat docking bay that kind of comes off to the side. Comes with a little rover thing for your characters to get into and zip around the base, and other various ladders and guns. But it's pretty cool. Like I said, it has the rocky outcropping front to it, but the inside is actually pretty colorful and vibrant, which is a neat juxtaposition between the two. You have the tough exterior, but a pretty cool technological core to it. Now, like I said, Captain Power toys, I was kind of aged out in '87. I would have been 11, and they were just really expensive. But those commercials, man, I wanted one so bad so I could shoot at my TV and my TV shoot back at me. That's awesome. All the ships had that technology. The other playsets we'll talk about in the future had that technology. They were really cashing out on this new technological advancement in TV viewing fun.
And now here's a word from our sponsor.
Captain Power has come to TV, and you can be part of it.
What are you doing?
Aim the PowerJet XT7, fire invisible beams at the television targets, and score! Or be hit.
The TV show fires back.
No kidding. Captain Power versus Lord Dread.
I don't believe it.
Believe it, short human. The power of the future is in your hands. Believe it.
Captain Power jet and figure sold separately. Batteries not included.
I can't remember at that time anybody talking about the show or the toys. And the only toy that I had was this cool robot with like a bird head and wings and a tail, and I got that on clearance. So, yeah, I don't know where the downfall was to this show. Maybe it was the price. Maybe it was just so gimmicked out that people didn't even try it. I don't know. But I would love to find some copies of the show and see how it holds up, because I'm a fan of post-apocalyptic stuff, and yeah, from what I've seen, this looks pretty cool. And it stars that dude from Conan and Running Man that's like buddies with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He played like the tank dude in it, so you can't go wrong with that. Anyway, yeah, that was number 5 on the list, and like I said, Captain Power will be making other appearances in the future of forgotten playsets. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I just love looking at old forgotten toys, and granted, I usually say this at the beginning of these episodes, but something that could be forgotten to me or you is not forgotten to everybody. every toy at one time was somebody's favorite, and they have fond memories of it, and they'll never forget those. So they're not forgotten to them. But for us few that have forgotten them, it's fun to look at. Now, the only real exception to this list is probably Robotech, because it is a cartoon, the Macross cartoon, that has endured for many generations, and it's still going strong in different forms in America and in Japan. But this toy line by Matchbox, to me, is mostly forgotten. So that's why I included it on the list. Like I said, it might not be forgotten to you. The SDF-1 may have been your most treasured plaything, and if it is, I envy you, because I would have loved to have one. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, strolling down the forgotten toy aisles of the 1980s. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, and stay dorky!